Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk. And today we're talking about gut health and how you can heal all your gut issues or gut problems without the use of any medications by some simple lifestyle changes and by understanding what causes gut issues to begin with and how you can handle your gut flare-ups or gut problems when they come up. I had gut issues for as long as I can remember. Like my earliest memory is that I was probably in primary school and I would have these severe pains, these bouts of pain in my stomach. And it would be just, in the middle of my stomach. So I wouldn't really be able to explain to my parents like what it is or what kind of pain it is, but I would be going through stomach pain quite often. It would be like a burning sensation. It would be like, at that time it was probably heartburn that I was unable to explain or some real, cramps. And I remember that my father got so, tired of my stomach complaints all the time because he would take me to the doctors and they would say, there's nothing wrong with the kid. She's perfectly fine. She's perfectly healthy. There's no allergies. There's no infection. And he would not understand what to do. I still remember I was probably in grade 2 or grade 3 when I had my first endoscopy because the doctors wanted to figure out what's going on inside of my gut. And even I think by that time, they had no idea, no clue what's going on inside of me. And from there onwards, I know that having stomach pains or having heartburn was kind of a normal thing for me. It would happen and it would just go away. In my teenage years, what started happening is that I started experiencing something new that was called bloating. And my stomach would just explode all the way up here. And I would feel extremely low on confidence. I would not want to go out. I would not want to meet people because I would just feel so awkward. And at the same time, every time this bloating would come, I would feel so difficult to breathe. There would be acid reflux. I would find it very difficult to sleep at night because I would feel like all the food is just coming up to my throat and it's just gonna fall out of my mouth while I'm sleeping. And these flare-ups would come and go. So it wasn't something that was there all the time, but they would come, they would come with vengeance. And I didn't know what was causing them. I would be perfectly healthy, you know, and all of a sudden I would have this flare up and I did not know what was happening. It wasn't until I was 27 years old when I was first diagnosed by, a Dubai doctor that I have IBS. And I remember sitting in his, room, and when he said to me, nothing to worry about, you have IBS. And I was like, what? What is IBS? And he said, it's this combination of term, that umbrella term that we use for gut issues. And this is generally, there's just there's some people they have it and there's some people they don't have it. And I was like, is there a cure for it? And he said, there's no cure. If you have it, you have it for the rest of your life. And we just manage it. And we have medicines to manage this. But I'm sorry to give you this bad news, but you got to live with this bad gut situation for the rest of your life. So while I'm sitting there, I'm getting this news. I'm thinking, okay, at least I know what is wrong with me, right? At least now, this problem that I've been having for almost my entire life, I know it has a name. It's called IBS. Uh, but the sad part is there's no cure for it, and I've got to live with it for as long as I live. And I have to manage the symptoms. So what is it that I can do to manage is antacids. And if I don't want to go this route and I want something stronger, then they can, prescribe me some medication that I can have for the rest of my life. One pill before my breakfast and then one pill after every meal or before every meal. And I was like, I don't want that. I don't want this to have like, I'm not in that bad condition that I would eat medicines at 27 years of age until I don't know how long I live. That's when he said, so normally IBS flare-ups happen when you have some triggers. And the triggers are usually food related, or they are environmental or lifestyle related. Usually in cases where we see people having gut issues or, stomach problems, they also have stress issues. So the first thing I would tell you is to reduce your stress levels and just try to stay calm and try to avoid, things that cause you a lot of stress. At that time, my work would cause me a lot of stress. So I was like, I can't quit my job, but okay, I'll try to manage it. And things that are not in my control, I'll try to let go of them. But what else can I do? What about the trigger foods that you're talking about? So he told me, you can't have coffee, you can't have chocolate, and I love chocolate. You cannot have spicy food, and you cannot have deep fried food. Dude, we're desi people. I'm like, deep fried food and spicy food, that's how we live. So you're telling me to basically cut my entire diet out. And at that time, I wasn't living a very healthy diet. I wasn't very big into fitness and health yet. And I was just looking at him blankly and I was like, okay, so no chocolates, no coffee, no spicy food, no deep fried food, and it will be away. And he said, in most likely cases, yes, you will be able to minimize the flare ups. And other than that, just have antacids when the flare up comes, drink lots of water, try to sleep. That's it. And with this information, I spent the next 7 to 10 years going through flare ups in my life. Some were bad, some were good. But every time I would have a flare up now, I would know that I'm having an IBS flare up. And I would be able to tell my friends or people around me, I'm sorry, I can't meet you because, I'm just having one of those days. I have a IBS flared up. And I was educating a lot of people at that time. I can tell you that because a lot of people were like, oh, really? What is IBS? And oh, do you have like constant constipation or constant diarrhea? And I was like, no, that is not IBS. I'm like, it's just an umbrella term for gut issues. You have a lot of acidity, you have a lot of heartburn, you can have acid reflux, you can have bloating. So, one thing that I noticed was that every single time I would have these flare ups, I would have severe mood swings. I would have bad temper. I would be super irritable and I would not want to hang out with anybody. I would socially cut myself out and I would feel like I'm going into a depression, like in a very low energy, low mood state. And I would not understand why. But to some extent, yes, when you're feeling unwell, obviously you'd be irritable and you will have mood swings and you will be like anxious all the time and irritable all the time. So my gut issues were going hand in hand with obviously my uh, mental state as well. And it would affect, I'd be very honest, sometimes in my relationships, sometimes at work. People do not understand what's going on inside of me. But what they're seeing is how I'm reacting in the outside world, which is being angry, losing temper, getting frustrated, and just generally irritable. They would not understand that this is happening because I'm feeling so bad inside and I'm like dealing with so many things inside. Anyways, to cut the story short, it wasn't until 2 years ago when my middle son, so I have 3 children, and the middle son started showing similar symptoms at about the same age, probably where I was when I started showing symptoms. And he would have this, hot fire that he would say that I have hot fire inside of my tummy. Or he would say, I have this boulder pain inside of my tummy. And then he would suddenly have bouts of diarrhea out of nowhere and then he'd be fine. So we did not understand what was going on with his health. So we took him to a pediatric gastro specialist. And the minute we sat down and she looked at him and she started asking some of the family history and some questions, she stopped right there and she said, wait a minute. I want to know, do you have uh, any of these problems? Do you or your husband has any of these problems? And both of us looked at each other and I was like, yes, I have. Like, I've been suffering from gut problems almost all my life. And she said, there you go. He's having these problems because you're having these problems. And I'm looking at her like, are these hereditary? Are you trying to say that, gut issues are like hereditary? And she said, just tell me one more thing. Did anybody in your family have gut problems? And I said, my mom. I know that my mom has had gut problems. She had stomach issues for as long as I remember, and even to this date, she is on medication for her, for her stomach lining and for her gut issues and for her heartburn. And she says, it's not hereditary, but it runs in families because it has to do with your lifestyle and with your environment. And if, in all likelihood, if the mother has gut problems, the child would develop gut problems. And because your mother had it and then you had it, so he's having the same problems. And it was one of the most painful things for me to hear, because this is my child who's not even 7 yet. And I've been told that he's going to have the same kind of issues that I had most of my life. And I was miserable. So I was devastated at that time. But I made it my life's mission to find out how I can make his life easy. Because, I've spent almost 30 plus years living with this, but he's just starting his life. And I wanted to make it easy for him. So I started reading up on gut health. I started doing a lot of research on gut health because I didn't want him to go on medications. I didn't want to, you know, uh, put him through the same kind of experiences that I had gone through, because, nobody could understand what was wrong with me. So I started doing a lot of research on this. And while I was going through this research, I remembered what the doctor said to me, my child's doctor. She said, it's been 10 years since you were diagnosed. I would say you go check out another gastro and find out what's going on with you now. And that's what I did. I went to another gastro specialist and he had a look at me, and now he gave me a new term. And this term was GERD. So basically me and my child have GERD. And it is again an umbrella term for gastrointestinal or esophageal uh, related issues, or I don't know, something something. So it's basically all of your gut issues, and it's an umbrella term for gut issues. So now I was like, okay, so first I had IBS, now I have GERD, and basically the things are same. It's acidity, it's heartburn, it's bloating, it's acid reflux, and sometimes it's belching or burping continuously for like a very long time, for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And it's very embarrassing when you're going like every 5 minutes in a conversation and a person is thinking you have no etiquettes or manners, but it's not in your control. So the guy said the exact same things that the previous doctor had said 10 years ago. Avoid spicy food, avoid trigger foods, avoid all sorts of high sugary items, caffeine, deep fried items. He also said, don't have ginger and garlic. And I said, again, dude, where they see every food has ginger and garlic in it. How can you ask us to not eat that? But okay, fine. So we come back realizing both of us are now going to have a different diet and we are going to be very particular about it. Again, one more thing that was told to us repeatedly was to not have a stressful environment around me and my son. So I would look at my husband and say, you know what? You have to keep me happy and him happy, so, we don't get into these flare-ups. But jokes apart, it was, kind of stressful to know that there are two people who can get very easily triggered, and can get these flare-ups. The most interesting thing that happened was when I started doing this research, I came across a couple of books that I read. So one of them was The Dark Matter. One was Trust Your Gut. Another one was The Genius Gut. And this is the current book that I'm reading, by the way. So I read about 3-4 different books and I did a lot of research on this. And I found out 3 very important things that changed my entire perception around gut health and how I am going to take the next steps to heal my gut and to heal my child's gut. And those 3 things, those very important 3 things, were: number 1, I found out about the gut and brain connection, which is also known as the gut brain axis. And what it is basically a whole network of neurons and nerve cells that are basically connecting and communicating, sending signals between your brain and your gut. And I found out that your gut and your brain are so intricately and so intimately connected that the minute you have mental health issues, or your brain is not in the right space, or you're having some mental concerns or mental problems, you're going to have issues in your gut. And the minute your gut is not in balance, you're going to start having a lot of mental state issues. So if you're having IBS flare-ups because your stomach's been upset, you ate a lot of spicy food and you ate a lot of deep fried food, and it just that trigger food triggered the flare-up, you're instantly gonna get anxiety, depression like symptoms. You're going to be irritable, you're going to be frustrated, you're going to lose your temper, you're going to have mood swings. And vice versa, if you are in a stressful situation, or if you're having a very bad time in your relationship and you are going through a serious period of stress or anxiety, or you have a lot of depression coming along, you're going to start seeing symptoms also developing in your gut. So you'll have diarrhea, you will have out of nowhere a lot of nausea and heartburn and acidity, and you won't be able to keep the food down, because the gut and your brain are connected and they affect each other. And if one is healthy, the other is going to be healthy, and if one is sick, the other is definitely going to get sick. This was a golden piece of information that I had just received. And I was like, okay, so now I know why every time I'm anxious or I'm stressed, I have the gut problems. Or every time I have gut problems, I have issues up here. So, okay, let's park it on the side and go on to the key fact number 2. The second thing that I learned from reading all these books is the importance of the gut microbiome. Another new thing I learned that I had no idea before, that no doctor told me before. So I stumbled on it on my own by doing my research and reading these books, and I found out, oh, there's such a thing which is called as gut microbiome. What is gut microbiome? Basically, these are trillions of bacteria living inside of our gut, specifically in our large intestine. And what they basically do is they digest our food for us. They even regulate our hormones. They even, build up our immunity, and they play a huge part in our immune cycle. And I was like, wait, what? So we have a lot of bacteria inside of us, which is called a good bacteria, and that helps keep everything stable, helps digest our food, keeps our immunity up, regulates our hormones. And when your gut microbiome gets out of balance, which means your good bacteria inside of your gut is dying, or is, the population is getting smaller, and the bad bacteria population is becoming larger because of some infection, or because you ate some, bad food, what happened, or you had a sickness because of which the growth of bad bacteria increased and it started eating up the good bacteria. So the minute your microbiome, your gut microbiome, is out of whack, you're out of whack, and you're going to have gut issues, and ultimately you're going to have brain issues or mental state issues. So that was interesting information number 2. The third thing I found out was that our gut health can be massively improved if we improve our lifestyle. So if we're eating a balanced diet, if we're living an active lifestyle, if we are keeping our stresses low, and most of all, if we're keeping our stresses low, then all the gut issues will automatically fizzle away and your gut health will improve. So I was like, okay, now I know these 3 important things. I know about the gut-brain connection, I know about the gut microbiome, and I know that I have to make some lifestyle changes. So let's go. And that's what I did in the last 2 years, which helped me heal my gut and which helped my son heal his gut. And we've been IBS flares or GERD flare-ups free for almost 2 years now. We do get sick every now and then, like we would have like a tiny little bloating session or a little bit of heartburn, but it's nowhere near what we used to experience before, which would go on for weeks and weeks. So what did I do? I did simple 3 things. 1, I started becoming very aware of my mental state, and I started focusing specifically on keeping my stresses low. So as a mother of 3 young children, and living abroad with very little help, you have to do everything by yourself. Of course, you're stressed out. And most of the times you're stressed out. But there are things that are in your control, and then there are things that are way out of your control. So what I started doing is that things that are in my control, I'm going to solve them, or I'm going to have a problem solving attitude towards them. And things that are beyond my control, I'm going to let them go. I'm going to leave it all on my faith and on my belief that the one above is going to fix them. Some of the things that I did was regular exercise. And I noticed that whenever I'm regularly exercising, that is about 4 to 5 times a week, and that's like a little moderate intensity exercise, my hormones, my happy hormones are up, my stress levels are down, and I'm just generally full of energy. I'm happy, I'm excited, and the same, I exuberate, and my environment, my children, my family is also happy. So exercise was something that I made part of my lifestyle because I knew it managed my stress levels. The second thing I started doing was that I learned some breathing exercises, and those exercises really helped me in managing myself, in calming myself, and especially when I was about to lose my temper, which can happen when you have little children at home. I would try to calm myself by doing these breathing exercises, meditation exercises that I'm also teaching my children now. So before bedtime, before we go to sleep, we do these breathing exercises and meditative exercises to, calm our nerves, to let go of all the stresses of life and go to bed in a happy, calm, peaceful way. So these things started, improving my gut-brain connection. And because I was also big on health and fitness in the last couple of years, my diet had improved a lot. I had naturally cut out extra sugars, extra fats, deep fried food was very little, and I was very mindful of my spicy food. So I would eat a little bit of spicy food here and there because I love spicy food, but I try to eat it earlier in the day around lunchtime, and I would specifically avoid spicy food or deep fried food around dinner time when I have very little time to digest the food. The third thing I also did with regards to my lifestyle was also making sure that I am eating my food, at least my last meal, at least 3 hours before my bedtime. So if I'm sleeping at 10 p.m., I'm stopping my eating by 7 p.m., maximum 7:30. In the most, dire situations, 8 p.m. But I would try to make sure there's a 2 to 3 hour gap between my last meal and my bedtime. And that helped massively in, controlling the acid refluxes, indigestion, and heartburn. And, life has been good so far. The second most important thing that I did from learning these things and making a huge change in my lifestyle and in my son's lifestyle is that we started including pre and probiotic supplements in our diet. So not just eating probiotic food, which is like most of the fermented food that you get, your kimchi, your kombucha, your yogurt. I also started having a proper pre and probiotic supplement at home at all times. And I made it a point that I would cycle it such a way that me and my husband and my son would have a combination of pre and probiotic supplements, 2 months on, 2 months off, so that our gut microbiome is always in good condition and their good bacteria population is increasing regularly and staying stable. And every time, especially every time one of us would get sick or is about to get sick, as we can see, suddenly a diarrhea is coming along, or suddenly, my bloating is getting bad, I would, increase the uptake of probiotics to make sure that our gut microbiome is getting balanced and not getting off balance. The third thing, which is lifestyle, again, I've already explained to you what I did in lifestyle. I started eating a lot of healthy food. I started timing my meals. I started doing exercises and meditation and breathing exercises to keep myself calm and relaxed. And another very important thing I started doing was I was making sure I was sleeping enough. So basically, that's it. That's all I did. And while doing this for last 2 years, we've been successful in keeping our gut flare-ups completely at bay. Both me and my child we're thriving, we're healthy. My emotional state of mind has become so much better. I do not lose my temper as much. I do not get irritable as much. Even when I'm having a little bit of stomach upset, or I'm starting to have a bit of gut issues, doesn't get that bad as it used to go before. I would have a little bit of heartburn, and if I knew that I ate spicy food or I ate very late in the night, so what I would do is I'll pop in a Rennie or a Gaviscon just to calm things down, because I know there's enough acid, inside of my stomach, which is causing all these problems. But other than that, things have been going extremely well. I do not bloat anymore. Yes, certain times I would bloat, usually around my PMS time, but generally, no, it doesn't happen anymore. And the severity has definitely gone low. Like the way it used to happen before, it's nowhere even close. So if you or somebody is suffering from gut issues, is having regular problems with acidity, heartburn, indigestion, bloating, flatulence, belching and burping, and you do not know what to do, and you do not want to go on permanent lifelong medication just yet, you can try these things. And these are just lifestyle changes and little changes in your life that will make a huge difference. Even if you're not having any prominent gut issues or any prominent emotional issues, you can still incorporate these things in your daily routine, and your gut health will improve even more. It will get better even more than now. So that is it. That is my story of how I healed my gut issues with just knowing more about what gut health is and how I can change my lifestyle to take care of my gut, which will take care of my mental state as well, my emotional state as well. So if you know somebody who's experiencing emotional issues or gut related issues, then please share this video with them. Also, I would advise, if you have any questions regarding what kind of probiotics to try, or you have any questions around what kind of probiotic foods you can have, or you want to know more about any of the things that I shared, please leave a comment below and I would love to get back to you. And I will see you on our next Let's Talk video. Take care.